Good afternoon and welcome everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We'd like to welcome you to this season of creation. It's lovely September 2021. We would like to invite you to join us in our dialogue series, with a partnership between the Franciscan Institute and the Catholic Youth Commission. So my name is Angelo Cubanali and I work for the Catholic Youth Commission. And joining us here, we have Annalisa Ramsahai representing us from the Franciscan Institute. Welcome, Annalisa.
Thank you very much, Angelo. So we are here to begin in partnership on what is season of creation and this fantastic month that you're hearing so many people talk about. What is the season of creation month is all about? So this is exactly why we have come together to talk about in a down-to-earth way and to share on what is season of creation and how we can celebrate this special time, this very special time in our country in Trinidad and Tobago. And whether you're joining us from Trinidad or Grenada or St. Lucia, our Caribbean family, we are all here together. And I would like to welcome our viewers and feel free to share with us any questions or comments on the Facebook Live. And for those who may or may not know, the season of creation month begins on September the 1st, as Angelo shared, and this is for the World Day of Prayer for the Care of Creation, and it will continue until October the 4th, which is the feast day of St. Francis of Assisi, who is the patron saint of ecology. And it is an ecumenical celebration where Christians from all over the world will celebrate during this month and mobilize themselves to renew their relationship with God, our Creator, and all of creation. And people celebrate in a way of either prayer, taking some sort of action or reflection. And in the Caribbean, right here in home in Trinidad and Tobago, we are doing down to earth. We want to talk to you in a really welcoming way. The theme for this year, for the season of creation, is a home for all, renewing the oikos of God. And this is why we have two very special guests joining us here today, who will be talking to you in a very down-to-earth way on what is this theme.
So joining us as our guests, we have Sister Julie Marie Peters and Andre Burton. Welcome to the both of you. We have Sister Julie, a sister of the Sorrowful Mother, who is a stalwart of our church and someone who really embodies the spirit of Laudato Si. And then we have Andre Burton, who is a wonderful young man who is passionate about, the environment and care for all of creation. So welcome to our.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Sister Julie and Andre, what a lovely mix. We would like to start by asking you, where did you grow up and where is this place you call home now? Let's start with Sister Julie.
I'm tempted to instead of telling you where I grew up, to describe. I grew up smelling ripe fruits every season. Mango, plums, guava, just call it. Experiencing cool breeze. Not smelling diesel and gas. Basically, guess what? I grew up in the country in a place called Pomrose, St. David's in Grenada. That's where I grew up. Where everybody swept in front of the yard. So by the time you finish, the whole street was clean because everybody swept in front of the yard. Great. So the place was always, clean and well cared for. You want to know anything more?
Andre, how about you?
Well, for me, I grew up in Trinidad here in Carenage in a very quiet neighborhood. It was a medium-sized house, 3-bedroom house, which had about between 7 to 12 people over the years, people coming in and out. But home was always a place where I knew I could go to after a long day. It was always a place where family always felt connected when we get together, especially at that family home I grew up in. we would spend hours just sitting down talking with each other and just catching up because it's such a familiar environment. So the home in which I grew up in was one where respect for each other, respect for, I had my grandmother, well, my grandmother was the head of the household, so she loved to take care of plants and all that. And I think that's where I kind of got my love for the environment from. But it was a place that really gave me a lot that I have today. And as I continue to reflect on my life as I grew older, I realized how much my home has always been and probably will always be a part of who I am. Yeah.
Well, you know, similar to Andre, you know, I could say I grew up in a yard. I slept in a house and I felt at home in the house. I was respected. There was a lot of joy. I grew up in a bicultural house because my grandfather was from India, and my grandmother by father had a French, very French beginning. Maureen was his surname. So I grew up in that kind of setting. But basically, I can say I grew up in a yard with neighbors, and every house was your house. I felt welcome. Children would be passing and my grandmother would see them pass twice and she would say, "You're not going to school today, boy, why are you passing twice here?" And you say, "My mom is sick and she went to the doctor." My grandmother would say, "You had breakfast already?" "No, I didn't eat yet, Auntie C. So come eat." Next thing, boy home for the whole day, eat, bathe. Next thing, you know, my brother doing homework with him, those kinds of things, you know. Yeah. So there was this connectivity. There was this really connectivity, and there was a sense of welcome beyond your own household. There was a sense of village welcome. That was it for me, you know. Really, really talk about interconnectiveness. That was it. We knew everybody. I don't know also if, strangers would pass, and because we knew everybody, soon as we saw somebody strange, we know that they were not from the village, but we would immediately just call them and say, "Hey, you're a stranger, where you from?" So sometimes it was a Trinidadian spending holiday or somebody from New York, you know, and when we heard New York, your ears perk up, you know. "So you're from the big city, you're from New York, tell me something about New York, you know, where you from?" You know, so we really always was a big tent welcoming people. The village was a big tent welcoming people. Yeah. That's my experience.
I could say I had a similar experience, but it was more with family. You know, family could come from anywhere in the world, and we would open up the house, how long they have to stay, whether they visited, whether they're not sure how long they stayed. It was always a place like that.
Yeah. And maybe you don't know that. Maybe you're a little too young, but people used to come from Trinidad. I think they were Lebanese, Syrians now. And they used to walk around with a suitcase selling clothes, especially like sheets and pillowcases, things that you had to go in town to buy. So people really used to be waiting for them. And they would come and they would open up their suitcase and you would bargain, you would barter, and you would buy things from them. And they were happy. And we'd always have juice or coconut water. They seemed to have preferred coconut water. Maybe they felt safer with it. And we would give them that. But they would always say, "We're passing back." And they would, you know, then you could order things. They might bring an umbrella next time, because we didn't go into St. George's that regularly. So we were happy to see our Syrian friends, our Lebanese friends from Trinidad that walked around. The whole store was a suitcase. They carried that suitcase and they walked around selling things. I don't know if that happened in Trinidad, but in Grenada, that was a real thing, you know?
I've heard stories of it happening here.
Yeah.
I'm too young to remember that.
Yep. And there was enough respect for the iceman because people didn't have refrigeration, you know. So an ice truck came around every day and sold ice, and you bought ice. You know, my grandmother had a little parlor, so she used to buy ice and make shave ice, you know.
Yeah.
So we really depended on one another, and we had to keep it safe for people because the iceman sometimes would ask for dry banana leaves to cover the ice, and we would go get it for him, and he would cover that and move on. So you had a sense that you were part of the whole world, you know, in doing all of those things for one another. There's a lot of trust of people, you know.
You know, I really love that sharing that both of you all are having, especially a home as a welcoming place for a person to come in. And then they feel welcome, they feel invited, they have food, you know, they have a family experience. So it really takes us to the theme this year for Season of Creation, a home for all renewing the oikos of God. And what you are both sharing, it reminds us of that symbol that Season of Creation is using, which is that tent, the tent of Abraham, which is the logo that you're seeing on this wonderful flyer for this Down to Earth series. Can either of you share, what does Abraham's tent signify?
Well, to me, it signifies the gathering of, if you want to call it, all of the remnants of creation. Everything that we need to save is like, you know, he was like the preserver of everything that we needed to go forward. Because remember, he brought these things into the tent, and he was told, you know, to take two, a pair of this and a pair of that and a pair of that. So that in itself symbolized for me that there is a procreative desire there, that things should never come to end, you know, come to an abrupt end, that things will continue. And I have that sense, a theological sense, that we have a responsibility, you know, to sustain the earth in such a way that it procreates itself. It procreates itself, because that's only how we could hand on to other generations. And Abram handed on to us. He handed on to us, but he didn't hand on something that would die in a couple of years. He handed on things that would multiply themselves and recreate the earth. And I think our moral call, if you want to call it that, is to do that, is to hand on in such a way that the earth continues to multiply, so that generations and generations can have. And I'm sure that Andre wants to add to that. So Andre, please.
Yes, well, I totally agree. I mean, when I think of the tent of Abraham, at least for me as a young person growing up in the church, I'll just give an example of an experience I had when I went to Olude, and in seeing, coming from Trinidad, and what I was accustomed to seeing what the church was like, this little community of people in this one island. And by the time you travel and you see how large the church alone is, when I begin to think of the entire world and all the other faiths and all the other peoples all over, and then we think about all of creation, because that's our responsibility to really have to put things in place to ensure that this thing that we call home will last as long as it can, you know. So when I think about Abraham's tent, I think of creation, us as a people, as well as all of the creative things that we have to live with and live with.
Yeah, I also think, I also wonder, I say, you know, how all these different animals and reptiles didn't fight with one another in that tent, kill each other in that tent, you know. I always wondered, marvel at that. I say, maybe the Bible didn't give us the entire story of this. But, you know, it's possible. It's really possible, because I think of myself, because presently I live in Rome, and I think of myself walking down to St. Peter's Square, where you have people from every part of the world, refugees and you know, and climate refugees, and you have, you know, the homeless, and they're from everywhere. I've met people from everywhere. And when they're there, I mean, you know, see, fighting, the fact that they are under the situation together as basically displaced persons, that commonality creates a sense of togetherness. And maybe all of the animals, everybody in the tent, felt that this is our preservation voyage, so we best just behave ourselves. And maybe, because, you know, sometimes when you're having storms, the first thing that you know you're having a storm is because the dogs are barking and next thing they get quiet. Some leaves, there's I can't remember the name in Grenada, we call it backflow, but some leaves turn around completely and they say there is going to be bad weather. So, I mean, there is an innate kind of sensing, and maybe because of that, all these animals behave themselves, protected each other. And I think that innate sense we have of we are each other's keeper, I think sometimes we have to go with that kind of visceral, what I would say, call to love and to unity, rather than to go with suspicion that comes from the mind and you know, prejudgment that comes from our background. Maybe we should go with what's in our heart when we sense the goodness of others, you know, bargain on that goodness until they prove us wrong. But let's bargain on that. Let's not start with mistrust. Let's start with trusting. And I think that will take us far as a civilization. So,
amen, sister. Thank you very much. Thank you to you as well, Andre. You know, I can't wait to hear, you know, to continue this conversation. I can't wait to hear more. But just in between, we would like to show one of our spoken word performances from last year. And this was done by Dylan Muhammad from here in Trinidad and Tobago. He went to St. Anthony's College. So from the Season of Creation competition last year, we'll now view Dylan Muhammad's video.
The tides are rising and it's getting hotter and hotter every day. I walk to school and look in dismay as the fluffy white clouds have been hidden by pollution. All that boggles my mind is a solution. I probably have 5 more years before the carbon dioxide kills me. But here we are, celebrating the Earth Jubilee. You say you love your family, but in reality, you are destroying their future. Why? Because you want some fancy architecture? Or because you want the trendiest furniture? But tell me, is it really worth it? You cannot. Because these material things ain't really worth it. You want to say you're helping your family, but little do you know that you are contributing to this tragedy. Everyone you love will die. No one will be left alive, not even to drive the fancy cars or even hop around the bars. Now I cannot tell if I'm living or I'm dying. But I do know that the earth is crying. But keep on lying to ourselves that we're not destroying this beautiful planet. When will mankind cease this madness? I cannot tell if my life is going to end today or tomorrow. But I can tell you, I am full of sorrow. Because no matter how I try to tell you, you will not listen. I am trying to survive, but you aren't paying attention. Mankind is on a continuous path of self-destruction. Everything he comes into contact with leads to ruction. He's blinded by his greed and lack of respect for nature. We definitely need help from the Creator. We don't deserve this beautiful earth because we treat her horribly. We kill animals so we can keep them as trophies. The world is flooding and we are complaining. But ultimately, we are deserving. You may disagree, but you know I am right. I don't need a prize to know that I opened your eyes. Things are not what they seem. We have destroyed this earth's natural beam. Don't tell me to see the glass half full, that everything is gonna be okay. It's our planet's jubilee. Yet, we treat the earth like it's our bubbly.
Wow, Dylan Muhammad's performance in the Season of Creation challenge is a wonderful way and a moving one on how especially youths can raise ecological awareness on this climate crisis. And, we are talking about renewing the oikos of God, that Greek word renewing the household of God. And Dylan spoke about the relevant issues that we are facing: climate crisis, ecological crisis. He's even relating to Pope Francis' teaching in his encyclical Letter Laudato Si, hearing the cries of the earth and hearing the cries of the poor. So it gives us a sense of encouragement. And I invite our viewers, for those who have this creative ability, whether it's spoken word, art, poem, to take part in the Season of Creation Challenge for this year. And we are invited by the school or parishes to participate, adults as well. So we are talking about renewing our relationship with creation. And Sister Julie and Andre, can you share with us some practical ways that we in our country can build a better relationship with earth and our common home?
I find it, and I think everyone else too. I find it it's almost abnormal to destroy what you love. When you befriend something, that befriending, that relationship in itself becomes a protection. So the first thing I would say to everybody, all our viewers, and anybody who would see this after, befriend creation. Take a minute to even look. A lot of persons have never seen the sunrise. Take a minute, get up early, see the sunrise. Don't be so busy that you can't stop to see the sunset. Look at one drop of water in a leaf and see your face in it. Just challenge yourself to enjoy something different about creation. Because I'm convinced, if you fall in love with it, you will protect it. Just think about all the persons you have fallen in love with and how you treat them. I think you will treat it that way. And to do other practical things, think about everything that's bad for your body is also bad for the earth. You won't eat plastic. Why throw plastic on the earth? You won't just drink a whole set of oil. So why fry things and then just throw your oil out on the earth? Right? Find a way to dispose of it so it's not saturating the earth. You go into the store, take a plastic bag that you have at home already. You have many plastic bags, wash them, and guess what? Take it to the fish market and give it to the guys selling the fish. They would love to put it in a plastic bag and then put it in the newspaper. You buy Catholic news, you finish with your Catholic news, take your Catholic news to the fish market. Give it to the guys who wrapping up fish, your fish. Guess what? I used to do that in Chagonas, And my guy, as soon as he saw me, he used to say, "Hey, sister, you bring my plastic bag, you bring my newspaper." And no, I didn't do it for that. But the return on that was I always got my fish some cents cheaper. And I got good fish. He took good care of me. You scratch my back, I scratch your back. We used to live like that. We can still live like that. Care for one another. Really care for one another. And I make sure Andre have some other things. And if he doesn't have, I will tell you some more. But Andre, please go ahead.
I really love the first one you mentioned, where just taking a moment to appreciate these simple pieces of creation that we could take for granted on a daily basis. I think that could have a really, really big impact on the individual. One thing I want to mention and ask that you bear with me a little bit, because the whole concept and idea of our home, I think for a lot of people, we don't really have a good understanding of what it is to be without a home, what it is to be homeless, what it is to not have somewhere to rest our head. And for those of us who have lost homes, we probably move from one place to the next. I've lived in many different places in the space of 10 years. And I think that is what we are accustomed to. If something does go wrong, we have an alternative. And in this case, We do not have an alternative. We have a lot of, some of the richest people in the world today who try to have an alternative and fly out and go on some other planet. And it's all these kind of out of this world kind of ideas that they're having. But I think that we really need to change dialogue behind it and talk more about saving the planet, yes, but connect it more to how does it save us as a people. Because in my mind, the planet will save itself. The planet has been doing that for billions of years. It's we who will be the ones who will end up on in a situation that I can't even probably put into words. So I think if we change dialogue around how we speak about the issue a little bit more, to bring it literally bring it home to us, so us to recognize, hey, we really and truly do not have anywhere else to go. And if we don't do something now to save ourselves, both the planet and civilization will be completely different from what we know it. So just in how the conversations we have, the things we talk about.
Yeah, and I also think, Andre, building on your point, what came to me is a sentence from Job. I think is chapter 11, maybe around verse 14 there, where he says, do not let injustice dwell in your tent. Do not let injustice dwell in your tent. The point you made about home, some people leave home. When they experience a lot of injustice, they abandon home, right? They abandon home. And I think that is how we're going to feel abandoned by the world when the planet experiences our injustice towards it, our not acting on its behalf. That's what I mean as injustice, not acting on its behalf. And I think that's why our Holy Father is saying to take decisive, urgent action. Transform, right? Transform this crisis into an opportunity. And I beg the question of everybody listening and who will see this. How can we transform this crisis into an opportunity? What opportunity do we want to give to the earth? What opportunity do we want to give to ourselves and to generations, your grandchildren, your nieces and nephews? And I think the opportunity, one, we should have, I agree with Andre, we should have open dialogue on how we can move, even as a family unit, what we can do, what decisive action we can take. We can do that as youth groups, parishes. I beg our priests to preach from the pulpit on climate issues. There is a muteness in the church that I don't understand. And I beg that we become on mute. I beg that we say something. I beg that we ask our people to look around. Look around. Teach your children to pick up a little piece of paper on the ground. Teach your children to pick up a plastic bag. Teach them when they drink something, don't throw it outside. When you're in your car, don't pelt out your beer bottle when you finish drink. You finish drink your coconut water by the savannah with a straw. My Lord, you're using a straw already. One-use plastic. At least throw it in a bin. Small things, but conscious things. Decisive action. Urgent action. This is not beyond, we're not talking brain science, we're talking just simple lifestyle change. Simple lifestyle change. Every age we can do it, at every age. So I beg us, let's turn, as our Holy Father is asking us, transform this crisis into an opportunity.
Thank you very much, Sister. That is such a wonderful and enriching sharing from both of you and Andre. And I invite our viewers to leave your comments and thoughts on the Facebook Live, and we'll get back to you at our next session, hopefully next week. So that word, we are each other's keeper, it all sums up to that. And I really like that we have homework to do. how can we transform this crisis into opportunity? So it's time for us to really wrap up this wonderful conversation. I really wished we could go on longer, but in keeping with time and in closing, on behalf of the Catholic Youth Commission and the Franciscan Institute for Personal and Family Development, it is a ministry of the Sisters of the Sorrowful Mother. I would like to say a special thank you to our guest speakers, Sister Julie and Andre, joining us today. You have shared such a wonderful and enlightening experience on what home means for you and how we can all better care and for coming home and be each other's keeper, right? Thank you to our co-host Angelo, and to all our organizers. Matthew, you're there and you're seeing him, but he's behind scenes. And to all our partners, I really want to say a special thank you. And last but not least, to our viewers. You are the key in making a difference in this world. We all need to come together to really care, as Pope Francis said, care for each other and to build that culture of care. So I invite you to join us next week. We are going into another conversation, another down-to-earth talk, and we'll be joined by the very talented Matthew Hall from the Catholic Youth Commission, who will be talking to us and sharing more about our faith, our Catholic faith, and caring for creation. So there's a great opportunity, and you can see that for our viewers, there's a great opportunity to participate for the season of creation in Trinidad and Tobago, right here in home. There are many opportunities that you can really take part in. We're having on Sunday for the Hugh Logan, going into more detail for our educational session on the season of creation theme itself. And this is from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. So tune in. And we also have the Season of Creation Challenge that the Franciscan Institute is doing. And this Catholic Youth Commission will be posting out a schedule of all the activities taking place in the Archdiocese. Feel free to connect with the Laudato Si Movement TT chapter. You can become a member, and I encourage you to take that challenge in becoming a member for really bringing Laudato Si to life. So thank you again for joining and tuning to us through Facebook and Instagram, and we'll see you for the next session. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much to you, Annalisa. Thank you so very much for hosting as well. So now we have Kalia Gittins from Maria Regina.
Good evening, everyone. This song is dedicated to the earth. Let us do what we can to save the earth, stop pollution, plant trees, recycle, and let us celebrate the Earth's Jubilee. I may be small, but I can still make a difference to save the world. It's the Jubilee for the earth, a rebirth. I'm only 6, but I can still have influence, and I'll start by asking you to do your part. Hello everyone, my name is Kalia Gittins. The name of my song is Save the Earth. I wrote this song to encourage people to start taking care of the earth. The earth is our home. We must take care of it by avoiding pollution, planting trees, and recycling. Once we all do our part, the earth will be a much better place to